Hello, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about our test review for function notation. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly. I'm not going to do all the problems this time, but I'll do one of like each type basically. So pay attention if you're struggling at all with any of these, and we'll get through these. So first thing we're going to talk about on this first page is composite functions. Composite functions is when you take two functions and combine them together in a way that you have one of your functions is the input for your other function. Okay. So basically, what like number two is saying here is it wants you to figure out what the function of 12 f of 12 is, and whatever that is, that's going to be the input that you plug into G. Okay. So again, that number in the parentheses is just what you plug in for X. Um, So basically, the first step is to figure out what f of 12 is. So we need to plug 12 into the f function. So the f function is right here, right above it, right? So we're going to take 12 and replace that x with 12. It's just substitution, right? Just like our last unit. So we're going to take out that x and replace it with 12. So we'd have 12. And this isn't going to change anything, but just out of good habit, anytime you plug something in, you want to put it in parentheses. It's not going to change anything here because you're just adding. It's pretty much the only operation, which parentheses doesn't really matter. But because when you add something in parentheses, the parentheses go away. But basically, that's going to be our f of 12. So 12 plus 4 is 16. So f of 12 is equal to 16. So then it wants me to take that and plug it into the g function here. So I'm going to replace the g or the x up here with 16. So it's going to be negative 6 parentheses 16 plus 9. Okay, negative 6 times 16 is negative 96. And then when you add 9, it is negative 87. So that would be my answer. Okay, again, not too tough, right? You figure out the inside function first, take that. That's your input for your outside function. Let's do another one just to make sure we got it. So let's look at number 4. So this time, the g is the inside function and it wants me to plug in 8. So I'm going to replace this x up here with 8. So it's going to be 2 times 8 plus 4 divided by 2. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 4 is 20, divided by 2 is 10. So that is my g of 8. That's what g of 8 equals. So then I'm going to take that and plug it into the outside function, which is f. So I'm going to replace this x up here with 10. So it'll be 3 times 10 minus 2. 3 times 10 is 30, minus 2 is 28. So 28 is my final answer. Whatever your final answer is for the outside function, that's going to be your answer. And you're done. That's all you got to do. Okay, not too tough. Now, just a side note before I move on, the composite functions are all set up with the parentheses in this unit. Something you might see on like the end of year test instead of like f of g of 8 or whatever, you might see it written like this: f of g of 8. So you might see this big O here instead of the parentheses. It's the same thing, but that is another way of writing composite functions. Okay, let's look at the rest of the test. So on the rest of the test here, let's start by looking at these multiplying functions. So again, when you multiply, you're basically just, multiplying these two functions. So let me mute my audio here real quick. Okay. You're just multiplying these two functions. So our goal here is to just solve these individually first. So I'm going to find f of negative 3, and then I'm going to find h of 2, and then I'm going to multiply those answers together. So let's start with, I zoomed out there when I should have been writing. Okay, so let's start with the f function. So this is the f function, right? So 6, and it just replaces the x. So 6 times -3 plus 9 over 3. And then that's going to multiply with h of 2. So that's right here. So I'm going to go 5 times 2 plus 10. Okay. 6 times -3 would be -18, plus 9 would be -9. Divide by 3 would be -3. So f of -3 is just going to be -3. And then h of 2, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 10 is 20. So -3 times 20 is just going to be -60. And that would be my answer. So again, the trick here is you just solve them individually, get them down to a single number, then do that operation, do that multiplying last. Then it's not as complicated, right? Let's do another one. So let's look at this dividing one. Same idea, but instead of dividing last, or multiplying last, you're gonna divide last. So let's find f of 12 first. So we're gonna plug in 6 times 12 plus 9 over 3. Then I'm gonna divide that by g of 3. So that would be 3 squared minus 8. Okay, so when I do that, 6 times 12 is 72, plus 9 is 81, divided by 3 is 27. And then 3 squared is 9, minus 8 is 1. 27 divided by 1 is just 27. So your final answer is just 27. So not too tough, right? Let's do another example. Let's look at this one over here. So this one, number 7, I have a 4 in front of the h. So again, anytime you have a number in front of the function, it just wants you to distribute that number into the function. So 4, and then h was 5x plus 10. It doesn't give me an input to plug in, so I just leave the x there. It's just the entire function. And then I'm going to minus g of 7. So that's 7 squared minus 8. Okay, so let's distribute. So I got 20x plus 40. Then I'm going to minus, and still in parentheses, 7 squared is 49, minus 8 would be 41. 41. Okay, so 20x plus 40 minus 41 is just going to, like, got those two like terms. I'm going to get 20x minus 1. And that would be my final answer. Not too tough, right? Okay, let's do the last problem here. This is an error analysis, and this is the most common mistake I always see, and it's going to be the same mistake you see on your test. So wink, wink, I'm telling you the answer right now, basically, for the test. So the problem here is they are subtracting all of h of x, right? So that means when you plug in h of x, that entire equation, you got to make sure that you put it in parentheses. So the problem is didn't use parentheses. Okay, because when you do that, like they did solve this correctly, it would be -15. But when you put this in parentheses, that negative there needs to be distributed to both numbers. They did -15 plus 10, but when you distribute that negative, that plus 10 is going to be a -10. So what it should have happened is you would get -15 minus 5x minus 10, so that when I combined those like terms, I would end up with -5x minus 25. That would be the correct answer. Okay, so make sure when you are subtracting, you are using parentheses. Otherwise, you're going to get that wrong. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns, ask your teachers. We're here to help. We want to help, and we'll see you guys out there.